morning. It is, oh, we're getting an echo. Good morning. It's Monday morning. We are having a beautiful day here in Maryland. It's right now, it's a little cloudy, but it's going to be gorgeous today, and I'm super excited about that. We are ASMM Digital Small Business Connections. We're the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. If you haven't listened for a long time, you may not know we started this almost by accident. I was really just trying to get my clients in front of people. So I started a live video series featuring my clients to put in front of my personal followers. And then it became something where people would call and say, well, can I come on? And I said, sure. And we've grown. And what I found is now we're at 124. I think this is our 124th person we've interviewed. We learn something every time. Me, personally, I learn something from each and every one of our guests. And I think if I'm doing that as a business owner, then you're doing that out there. And I hope so. I would love to hear what you've learned so far. So please do let us know. I want to also start today with something that I have been working on all weekend for a client. It's something we work on a lot here, which is how well do you know your customers? And I love this. We do an exercise where I go through and I create personas. I actually find a picture of somebody who I think this is somebody who's going to buy this product. I do a description of them. I talk about their pain points. I talk about what they listen to, what they read, what they're doing this weekend. I do all of that. I send it over to my client who has told me that her client is a 40-year-old woman and she has 3 kids. And this is what she's given me. When I send it over, she sends me something back with, oh, no. And there's this Asian guy who lives in a brownstone in New York. And there's this other woman and she does this. And it's really exciting. So sit down, ask yourself those questions. What are they reading? What are they doing? What are they watching? What are they doing this weekend? Find those answers. See, and that way you're going to be able to target them much better with your marketing. That's my tip for the day. I hope it helps you out. I want to remind you that we are streaming live, that you can subscribe on YouTube. We're streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, but you can subscribe on YouTube and you would help me not be a nerd in my kids' eyes by doing so. So please go over there and do that. I also want to remind you that you can ask questions. The reason I tell you this is we have experts on the show. Today's expert is Courtney DeRonde. She's going to talk about how to run a successful business from a financial standpoint. Her business helps small businesses who are overwhelmed but want to take their business to another level. She helps them maximize their financial information so they can achieve better results and move their company, their organization to the next level. So let's welcome her on. Let me grab you. There you are. Sorry. Hi, Courtney. How are you?
Good morning, Anne. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. And you're coming from Des Moines, Iowa.
Absolutely. Yep. Middle of the USA.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about what you do.
So I am a CPA and managing partner of our firm. So that means I get to really focus on our vision and our strategy and business development efforts. But the rest of our team helps clients one-on-one, primarily, as you mentioned, small businesses and nonprofit organizations, just understand how financial information isn't just for filing tax returns and handing over financial statements to your lender or investors. You can actually use that information to make decisions all throughout the year to become more profitable and to grow and scale your business in a smart and sustainable way. So that's our focus, is really helping clients understand how to do that. In my role, I spent 17 years serving clients and then transition into firm leadership and business development. So I have that firsthand experience running and scaling our own business, the firm. So I have that unique perspective of the business owner as well as the advisor perspective from serving clients for so many years.
That's so great. And it's timely. I will tell you this is timely because today I start the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. And over the weekend, I went ahead and I read what we're going to be doing this week. And it talked about having a financial dashboard with metrics. And I put my head down on the desk and cried. And then I texted several people I know who have been in business for 25 years and more and said, what are those metrics you're tracking? Because I don't think I've been tracking any. I mean, and there are some, I know how many clients we have at any given point. I know some of their averages, but there's a lot of stuff I haven't been tracking and I'm not sure what to track. But here was the interesting thing is I messaged 4 people, and one of them got back to me and said, oh, this is what I tracked. The other said, am I supposed to be tracking stuff? So we're not alone in that we don't know what to track,
Hmm.
right? So,
Yeah.
well, let's talk about, so what are those blind spots we have and as we're growing a business?
Yeah. So when you're in that growth stage of business, you've made it past startup and you're really starting to kind of hit your stride, you can be surprised by these new problems and challenges that come up. It's like all that growth you work so hard to achieve suddenly creates new challenges and they kind of come out of nowhere. That's why we call them blind spots, but they're very common. And the first one is you start feeling really frazzled, like you've reached your limit and you know there's got to be a better way. You're wearing all these hats, you're doing all these things in your business, which in startup mode is very necessary. You have to be kind of scrappy and figure things out. But once you grow, you can be consumed with all these activities that start to creep beyond your competency or your capacity, or maybe both. So you'll
Right.
find yourself as the business owner, or maybe some of your team members or contractors, doing things that don't really match your skills or your desires. And so you have to start figuring out how to optimize the processes in your business and really find the best roles for yourself and for your team members to maximize, like, what are the things that only you can do that provide the most value to your business, and then use a mix of employees and contractors and other softwares and ways to optimize your systems so that you can do the things that you're uniquely positioned to do that provide the most value for your business. So that blind spot is you start to feel frenzied, and the answer isn't just work more. It's take a pause and really look at where can we find some efficiencies in our processes and in our people.
Absolutely. And this is something that almost every business owner does in the beginning, right? We have, and I think 2 areas that I see it the most. I see it in, well, marketing. No, people think they can do marketing themselves, or they think they can have their 15-year-old do social media for them. But accounting is one. The other is IT. And they
Hmm.
think, I'll figure it out. Well, then they spend 2 hours trying to figure out what's wrong with their computer, as opposed to having somebody who they say, text me. I'm texting you now. Here's what's wrong with my computer. Fix it in the background while I'm working.
Right. I
It's
think,
such an easy solution.
yeah, people think of it, oh, I can't afford to do that. It'll cost me,
Yeah,
but you can't forget the opportunity cost. Your
right.
time is more valuable doing things that contribute to the profitability of the business. And so using outsourcing or hiring other people who can do things much more effectively and efficiently, that's what you should. So kind of what we tell people, if another business wouldn't pay you to do the bookkeeping or accounting, marketing, HR, IT, if they wouldn't pay you to do that, your business shouldn't be paying you to do that either, because effectively that's what you are doing. There is an opportunity cost there.
Absolutely. Well, and there's one thing that people don't think of is there's loss, especially as a CPA or a bookkeeper in particular. We have a friend who will not hire a bookkeeper. He's like, I do all my own invoicing. And I'm like, I'm 100% sure he's leaving money on the table. I'm 100% sure there are people he hasn't billed, or there are people he hasn't collected from, because he's busy running his business. He doesn't have time to go back and check,
Hmm.
right? So
Yep.
it's a huge, huge thing. So are there other, as far as mistakes people are making or blind spots they see there?
Yeah. So the second blind spot, people are flying blind. So kind of to your point, like of having financial information to have access to, people oftentimes kind of have a gut feel for how things are going. And as they grow, their gut feel starts to be misaligned from the financial reports. And they think, well, that can't be right. Those financials can't be right. And maybe they're not. Maybe you need a better accounting system or accounting resources in place to make adjustments and correct the financials. Or maybe there's just so much more going on in the business that you can't keep it all in your head anymore. And so
Right.
flying blind is another challenge where you really need to make sure you have the right resources in place to get you financial information so you have a true, accurate, timely picture of what is happening from all of your efforts in business.
I would think that would take stress off as well. Even though I put my head down and cried, it was mostly because I'm not doing it. And it was this realization that, oh, maybe if I do it, maybe I can take some stress off and not be worried all the time.
Mhm. Yeah, it's just one of those things that it feels a lot of times financial information is not the business owner's primary expertise or focus area. It seems confusing, overwhelming, and so you can kind of avoid it. But when you have the right people, either employees or contractors, outsourced accountants who can give you that information, you can start to see the real power of having that information. So yeah, so that's the second one. The third one is you're fighting fires. So you're spending all this time putting out fires, running around doing what's urgent and not really stepping back to focus on how you can prevent them. This really goes to those key performance indicators that you were talking about, Anne, but from a leading indicator perspective. So financial statements and any KPIs you pull from the financials are all going to be lagging measures. It's reporting what's already happened. That's
Right.
that's important. You want to know like what has happened. But if you want to start getting ahead of things and predicting where you're going, preventing issues from happening, you have to also identify leading key performance indicators. So that's where you're really digging into the different areas of your business. So you might have issues or opportunities to improve in finance. It could be more operational. It might be within your customers or your sales, could be within your people, your workforce. You think about those four main areas of business. What are the raging fires or what are the things that just over and over and over again you keep putting out the fire but not preventing it from coming up again? And then you have to drill down into the underlying activities and figure out what is happening that I can measure and monitor that will lead me to a result later. So if you have a perfect example is cash flow.
Right.
Most small businesses have cash flow problems. That is just a symptom of some underlying issue. And it could be that you have a cash flow problem because you aren't collecting your receivables. Nobody's paying attention to if people have paid your bills. And so it's not that you're not pricing things well, you don't have enough sales, but you're not monitoring the cash coming in. So measuring your days sales and receivables is a lagging indicator. It doesn't fix anything. But if you measure and monitor the underlying activity of who, how many people are we calling every day on past due receivables and start putting attention around that, then you'll start to see that lagging indicator improve because you're dealing with the leading indicator, the underlying activities that drive that. So that's that third one is moving into more leading indicators in conjunction with your lagging indicators, focusing on the activities happening right now that will influence your results in the future.
That makes complete sense. And actually, you saw me write down cash flow and leading
Yes.
leading key performance indicators. So yeah, I told you I learned something from every one of these. So what is our next one?
Yeah, the fourth one is fear of missing out. So you start to have more cash than you're used to as you're successful, and you don't want to waste it, but you're not really sure what to do and how to be intentional about it. And a lot of times, business owners only use budgeting and forecasting when things are tight. And when the money starts to flow in, they just think, well, everything will take care of itself. And what can happen is you can end up with several years of success and get to the end of it and feel like you don't have anything to show for it because you weren't
Right.
intentional about how you used it. So we encourage business owners to use a budget to be intentional about how do you want to spend the money that you're making. How much of it do you want to reinvest in research and development? Or maybe you're not paying yourself enough. Maybe you need to pay yourself more as the business owner. Maybe you need to start building some reserves of cash. So, actually having a budget, not just to stretch the dollars as far as you can. That's one way you can use it. But when you have plenty of cash, use it to be intentional about how you're going to spend all the dollars you make in the business intentionally.
That's great. And that's my word for the year. I've said this on the show before. So I love that. And I can see it happen. You can think about somebody who's especially specifically, I'm going to pick on basketball players, right? But you see a really wealthy basketball player who does that. The money's coming in, they just spend it, spend it, and then eventually end up without any money, and they're not playing basketball anymore.
Mhm.
But businesses do it as well. All right. So what is the final one?
Yeah, the last one, failing to forecast. So a lot of entrepreneurs are really good at the vision side of business and
Uh-huh.
create a vision and maybe even go down to the strategy level, but they don't pencil it out. They don't have anybody who can actually pencil out on paper or in Excel spreadsheets or forecasting, software. If we do this, what do we forecast the results will be? And are those results in line with what we're thinking? You can save a lot of wasted time and energy by penciling out the financial implications of your strategy before you start executing. Because if you don't put the numbers together and actually model it, you might realize later that no, even if you perfectly execute, you didn't actually achieve what you thought you could achieve, or your strategic plan was unrealistic. And so
Right.
taking time to really pencil things out and create a projection, a forecast about what we think will happen as a result gives you a better tool for refining your strategy. And we all know nothing ever goes exactly as we planned. So as you get into
Right.
executing your strategy and things don't work out, you have a model that you can go back and tweak and say, okay, now my assumptions are this. Now I know that. And you can continue to use that as a tool to make sure that you actually achieve your goals and that your strategies will get you to where you're trying to go.
Well, so I'm going to move. We talked about doing this in a different order, but I'm going to move this around because I have a feeling that this is the answer to what I was about to ask, which is, how do you do that? Who helps you with these things?
Yeah, so we work as an outsourced CFO to a lot of our clients. So we do this kind of thing with our clients all the time. But if you're big enough to have an internal finance or accounting team member, somebody with a financial mind and really good Excel skills can do this kind of thing for you. But what often happens is small businesses, as they grow, they don't have a CFO full time, and it doesn't make sense for them to hire someone at that level. Then you need to make sure you have some kind of fractional or outsourced CFO to be providing that service for you so that you can really pencil things out. We when we do this for clients, it ranges in terms of how rapidly they're growing and how much they want to try to accomplish. For some clients, we're working with them, every other week or every month. For some clients, it's quarterly. For others, it's annually. We help them, after they create their plan for the year. We help them pencil it out, give them a model to use, and we help them measure and monitor it all throughout the year. So an
Right.
outsourced CFO or a fractional CFO or an in-house CFO, that's really the level of person that has the competency to do this more forward-looking modeling and forecasting.
Okay. So if if you have a tax preparer, they're not necessarily going to do that. You actually
Right,
have to look for somebody who specifically does that. Or
right.
do they sometimes do tax preparers sometimes also do that?
Yeah, so there's a difference between a tax preparer and a business advisor. And so oftentimes a tax preparer is going to prepare the return. They're going to take the information you give them, prepare the return. You'll meet with them, maybe once per year. A business advisor or an outsourced accounting firm might also likely also prepares taxes, but they have another segment of their business that is focused on working with you all throughout the year. So there's a cost difference because in order to understand how to help a small business owner, you have to take time to ask questions and really know the goals and the business model and the challenges to be more proactive. Takes more relationship building and time. And so when you're looking for this type of service, you want to find a firm that has that more advisory approach versus the tax preparation approach. But that advisor might also prepare taxes, but that there are some tax preparers that really are only focused on tax preparation.
Okay, and also bookkeeping, right? You don't have You can't just go to a bookkeeper and think they're going to do this for you either.
Right. Yes, exactly. And so, and I'm glad you brought that up because that having those accurate, timely records is foundational to proactive tax planning, to forecasting, to projecting cash flow, all those things that are more leading and proactive require a foundation of accurate, timely financial information. So a lot of times a client will come to us and they're looking for that, proactive forecasting or tax planning, but they don't have good books. And so
Right.
they either have to really provide better internal resources for bookkeeping or outsource the transactional bookkeeping to us as well, or to another, like somebody has to do it. Somebody
Right.
has to do accurate, timely record keeping so that we have that as a foundation for the ongoing forecasting and the more proactive work.
That makes complete sense. And it, one of the things that I have found with every single guest, at least for the past 6 months, is that everything comes back to some sort of self-awareness, right? If we're not aware enough to know that that's not my strong suit, then we doing something we shouldn't be doing.
Hmm.
Right? So we have to know I need help here. And that goes back to your first blind spot, right?
Yes, right, exactly. That's exactly right. It goes back to that first blind spot of like if when you're starting to feel stretched thin and maxed out and like I am not sure I should be doing this, that is a really good indicator that you've gained enough momentum that you can start to invest in some of these other higher level resources and tools to get you to the next level. Otherwise, you're either going to be capped on your growth or completely burnt out, like one way or the other. It's really hard to break through to that next level of growth if you're still trying to do everything yourself, beyond your own competencies and skills.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So let's talk about, right? We've had the craziest year. And so there are things that we think, okay, well, we have to prioritize. But you're saying there are three things really, no matter what's going on, we need to prioritize.
Yes, so absolutely in an uncertain economy, but really in any economy, these three things are still completely relevant. So the first one is to project your cash flow. So you have to be predicting where you're going to be from a cash perspective. So this involves knowing how much cash you have available to you right now, and then
Mhm.
on a weekly basis projecting out over the next, say, 12 to 16 weeks, how much money is going to be coming in, how much cash is going to be coming in the door from point of sale transactions, from collections of customers on receivables, how much is going to be coming in over the next 16 weeks, week by week, and how much cash is going to be going out. Which weeks do I pay payroll? Which weeks do I pay credit cards? Which weeks do I issue accounts payable checks? What's going to be going out the door? And then
Right.
that will give you your forecasted cash balance. And so this is in a spreadsheet. And if your listeners want this, send me a message on LinkedIn and connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me a message. I'll send you an Excel spreadsheet, all formatted and set up. You just drop your numbers in to do this. But it's a way to then see where are there weeks where I'm going to have low cash or negative cash. Those are going to be problems. And so
Right.
that's just step one. This is visibility. Then you have to say, okay, what am I going to do about it? What can I do to delay or reduce expenses? What can I do to accelerate or increase receipts? How much do I have available on my line of credit? Do I need to be going to my lender and saying, listen, because of some growth, there's some kind of weird timing on investing in some things that I won't get a return on until later from a cash flow perspective. I need to increase my line of credit to get me through this little, pinch period. But if you don't actually project it out, you don't really know. And if you go to a lender without any data to support where you're at, it's going to be harder for them to feel confident in increasing your line of credit, or it's going to be harder for you to know, or for your team, where do we focus our efforts? So getting that visibility using a cash flow projection is a great tool to really avoid negative financial surprises.
Right, right, absolutely, absolutely. So, I'm so sorry if I missed count. First one was, predict your cash flow.
Yep. First one, project your cash flow. Yep. The second one is to influence your sales mix. So be intentional about what products or services you're focusing on growing because you know which ones make you money. So a lot of times business owners don't really have a true picture of how much margin they generate from their specific products, services, geographics, customer base. There's different ways you can delineate it depending on your business. So maybe it's by customer, by industry, by distribution channel, geography. You need to know, where do you make the most money?
Right,
And which items are most relevant to your customer base at this time? And during COVID and this last year, that what's relevant to your customer might be different than it was in the past. It might be different than it is now, today, sitting
right.
here where we are a year later. So knowing, where do you make the most money and where does that intersect with what your customers need most? That's where you have to focus. And the things that aren't as profitable or aren't as relevant, you might need to cast them aside or pause or discontinue from those, and so that you can put more effort and focus and marketing dollars around promoting the products and services that are most profitable and most relevant. But a lot of times business owners, they don't have the data, they don't
Right.
know which is more profitable, and they're not taking the time to be intentional about it. They're reacting. So this is a way that you can actually influence your results by being more proactive, but you've got to know
You've
which
gotta
things make
know.
the most money. Mhm.
Well, and I'm gonna give you a good example. So we have 3 packages we offer, right? And for the longest time, we thought, "Well, this is awesome. We just sold our biggest package. This is so wonderful." And then finally, we spent some time looking at it and we realized we make the least amount of money on our big package of everything that we do because we've priced it poorly. We've priced it poorly. We haven't given it the value it really is. And people kept buying that one. And that was our clue, right? We're selling more of these than anything else. So why is that happening? Well, because we've got it priced so low. People are like, that's a still, let us take it.
Mhm.
So you do have to know, you do have to pay attention. So I love that one. All right. So what is the third one?
Yep, and the last one is to scrutinize your expenses. So this can be tedious, but a lot of times people either ignore this, or they kind of blindly cut expenses across the board. You really need to be intentional and figure out, where is your money going. So I mean, it can be as simple as looking at your detailed general ledger, or looking at your credit card statements, your bank statement. Look for those recurring subscriptions. There's a lot of things we sign up for and totally forget about that could be, just throwing money out the door. Maybe you're paying a higher interest rate than you could be, and it's time to refinance. Maybe you're paying a lot of penalties and late fees because you're not properly managing your cash and being thoughtful about who you pay when. Um, it could be you're paying for storage. You might be able to negotiate a lower lease rate. Maybe you could outsource functions that you're doing. There's all kinds of things that you could be saving money on, that it's just kind of, things are just rolling, and we don't often take a lot of time to really scrutinize these expenses. And so taking time to kind of dig into the details and really look for these opportunities, like, where are there, just money kind of leaking out, or things that you're wasting, or maybe there's an opportunity to change something that you should have changed a long time ago anyway, but you just didn't, put the focus or the effort around it. So managing your expenses is the third thing to prioritize.
Absolutely. And in marketing, I will tell you, we'll have one of our employees will come to us and say, "Oh, there's this really great tool. We really need it and we have to use it." And then, 6 months later, I ask about the same tool and they're like, "Oh, we don't use that anymore, but I'm still paying a subscription fee for it."
Hmm.
Right. And so you do have to pay attention and you have to ask that question. Well, I'm happy to pay for it if we're using it. But if we're
Right.
not using it, we should, not be paying for it. You want to make sure
Yeah.
you know what's happening there.
And
So
sometimes it's small dollars and you think, well, it's not that big of a deal. But, a monthly fee times 12, and there's a few of them, it can really add up. And it just takes a little bit of time to scrutinize those details.
absolutely. Courtney, I have to tell you, we're running out of time. And I am gonna be honest with you. When people come to me and they say, and you didn't come, it was I guess somebody you've hired who calls and says, hey, we have this person who should be on your show. I had told this, I had told her, I don't want any more CPAs. They're all boring. And she says, no. You've got to listen to Courtney. And you've been wonderful because we've talked so much that we've run out of time. But before you go, there were two things we found we had in common. One is that we are real big fans of the Enneagram. And the other is that we're also big fans of Michael Hyatt and Company. And I don't know about you, but I'm assuming that it's Megan Hyatt Miller that also attracts your attention there,
Yes.
because
Yes.
I adore her. So let's talk about your favorite book, because that goes back to the Enneagram.
Yeah. So my favorite book, The Road Back to You by Ian Cron, is about the Enneagram. So for your listeners who aren't familiar with the Enneagram, this is really talking about personality. So it teaches there are 9 personality types in the world. And what I like about it so much is that it helps increase emotional intelligence, and it helps to give common language and tools for working with each other about how do we learn more about ourselves and about how we work with other people. It has impacted me in my personal relationships and in my professional relationships with colleagues, and I find it fascinating, and I think it's just such an incredibly helpful tool. And The Road Back to You, Ian's book on this topic, is really like an entry level point to understanding the Enneagram. There's lots of good information out there, but this is a very accessible book that you can read and most likely identify your own type by reading the book and gain a lot of core understanding through the book. There's other books that are really complicated and deep, and this one is a really good entry point to learning about the Enneagram.
And you have great news. He's coming to your office to speak.
So we are bringing Ian to TDT on May 20th to do an in-firm training for us. So all of our team has taken his IEQ9 Enneagram assessment, and then so everybody will know their type from their assessment, and then he's going to spend about 6 hours teaching us foundations of the Enneagram, and it's all aimed at increasing our emotional intelligence. That's one of the key success factors of knowledge workers, and for us as CPAs, that's hugely important. The other thing is we are a growing team. And so I believe in Patrick Lencioni's like 5 dysfunctions of a team, that the foundation of an effective, healthy team is trust. And so the
Right.
Enneagram is a tool that builds trust because we understand more about each other and have language to have those discussions with each other, that helps to build trust.
Absolutely. Well, and a good example, we talked about it before, is yes, I have the achiever type, right? That's part of it. But I also have that challenger type. And if we didn't know that within our company, people may just think I'm a jerk. And I'm like, no, I really am not. I promise. It's just that I've got this challenger part of me that is always going to challenge a little bit. Right. And once they knew that, they're like, okay, well, here comes that challenge. It's okay. Right. So they can still trust me. I love that you said the thing about trust, because I think it matters.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to say, I had said earlier in the show that today I start the Goldman Sachs 10,000 program, but you're working with Michael Hyatt and Company. And the reason I'm going to mention this is because I do think we as business owners kind of expect ourselves to know everything, and we can't. And so tell us, if you don't mind, I'm going to give him a shout out. I don't know him at all, but I love him, and I love their company. So tell us what you're doing and how it's helping your company.
Yeah, so we are part of Michael Hyatt and Company's group business coaching program called Business Accelerator. And so we're in our second year. And so what they do is they put us into a cohort with a group of other business owners, and we have quarterly intensives. So we go to Nashville every quarter and go through a live training session. Michael is actually my coach. There's other coaches on staff that coach other cohorts, but they lead us through a different full, intense day of teaching a different topic each quarter to help us learn to be better leaders, to succeed personally and professionally. That's what I love about it compared to some of the
Right.
other things that are out there, is that it's focused on the whole person, not succeeding in your career or your business at the detriment of your family and your hobbies and
Right.
faith. And so there's different topics each quarter, and then all throughout the quarter, in between the intensives, there's ways to interact with the community of other people who are business owners who are in the program, not just in my cohort, but the hundreds of other business owners. So there's masterminds, they bring in expert spotlights. He does a Q&A live every Monday morning. And so there's just access to wonderful tools and teaching. And then they also, once you're in the group business accelerator program, you are eligible to be in a one-on-one coaching relationship as well. So I actually, after my first year, then entered into a one-on-one coaching relationship, and that's to help very personally with what things I need. So the reason I did this, I became the managing partner of our firm in
Right.
2020, and I'm also responsible for our business development efforts. But I'm a CPA. Like my degree is in accounting. So
Right.
so I have a ton of experience in leadership and how do we help clients, but no formal marketing or sales training. And once you're a leader in your business, the pool of people in your firm that you can talk to kind of shrinks because
Right.
you're in a different role. And so having that outside coach to help guide me through and kind of be my cheerleader and my confidant has been tremendously helpful and valuable to me. So those are the two ways that we are working with Michael Hyatt and Company. It's been tremendously valuable.
And I think that's the thing, is that you have to do, I shouldn't say you have to. There are plenty of companies that are doing just fine out there without the help. But I think that you're more likely to succeed if you help, if you understand yourself better, and if you work with somebody who will help you to do those things that you don't know, because you don't know what you don't know.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think it's really, really important. And I pulled up, while you were talking, I pulled up my full focus planner because you said something that came up this weekend as I'm about to start this program, which is going to take hours out of my week. I was doing my weekly planning, and there's a part in there that asks, how are you going to prioritize your sleep, or your working, or your running, or whatever it is. And so I realized, oh, I've been doing that on autopilot for the past, you know, 10 years. But this is going to change everything. So I had to write it in. This is how I'm going to do it. And I got up this morning when I wouldn't have normally run first thing in the morning, and I did, because if I don't, I'm not going to get a chance to today. So it is really important that you do things like Michael Hyatt and Company, or the Goldman Sachs, or whatever it is, to make sure that you're hitting all of those areas of your life.
Yeah, I agree. It's great to learn and to grow, to be around other people who maybe are a little bit farther along the path that can help you and share their experience and how it worked, and other people who are maybe not as far as you are, who you can help and say, "Hey, I've been there. I've done that." It just to encourage others and to be encouraged and learn at the same time, I think is a real gift and something that is tremendously valuable for business owners.
Absolutely. It really is. All right. How do people, I know they can find you, we talked about it, they can find you on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Where else can they find you?
Yeah, so you can also find us at tdtpc.com. And so there you will find a link to our bio pages. If that's the easiest place for you, you can go to the bio page and click on my LinkedIn profile from there. Or you can go right to LinkedIn and find me at Courtney DeRonde. And I'd love to connect with you there. And like I said, if you want that cash flow spreadsheet, that template, I'm glad to send you that. Just send me a message on LinkedIn or reach out through our contact page on our website and mention this podcast, and I'll be glad to send you that information.
Awesome. Can I ask you one other question that I should have asked at the beginning of the show? So
Yeah.
you are in Iowa,
Mhm.
but do you only work with people in Iowa for accounting?
No, we have clients all across the country. So
Okay.
we work with clients. We have tools set up to meet with them over video conference to pass information back and forth digitally. So we have clients in multiple states across the country. So we're familiar with and have the expertise to be able to handle multi-state tax filings, but we're also capable of handling outsourced bookkeeping, outsourced CFO work in a remote environment. So even though we are based in Iowa, we can serve clients and do serve clients all across the country. So thank you for bringing that up, Anne.
Well, yeah, it just occurred to me that, you want to like your business advisor. You want to like the people you're working with. And if they've listened and they want to know more, I'd like them to be able to get in touch with you. So yes. So you
Yeah,
stick around. Let me remind everybody else about how nerdy my children think I am, and I'll be right back with you. So, for real, my children think I'm a complete nerd because I don't have 1,000 followers yet on YouTube. So please do go over there. But in all seriousness, we are a small business, and this podcast gets me in front of people. And that's something you can do. Actually, if you need help with that, we can help you with that at ASMM Digital. We can help you be seen by other people and become the expert. But subscribe, it helps me out, whether you're doing that on YouTube or whether you're doing it on your podcast where you're listening. And if you have time, leave a review. If you like the show, please leave a review. If you don't like the show, message me. Tell me what I could do better. Tell me how I can change it, because this show is for you. It's not for me. I want to make sure we're giving you everything you need to succeed in your life and in your business. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Courtney, thank you so much for coming on. This was really fun.
my pleasure, Anne. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. See you later, everybody. Bye bye.